Anya Reed adjusted the silk scarf around her neck, a small, almost imperceptible gesture that betrayed nothing of the inner confidence that radiated from her. The crisp autumn air nipped at her cheeks as she stepped into the bustling Galleria Mall, a space she knew intimately, a space she owned. Today, however, she wasn't here in her capacity as CEO of Reed Holdings. She was simply Anya, a woman needing a new blouse for an upcoming gala. Her tailored pantsuit, a deep navy that complemented her rich mahogany skin, moved with the effortless grace that came from years of navigating high-stakes business deals. She scanned the array of stores, her gaze settling on Elegance Emporium, a boutique known for its curated selection of designer clothing. The large glass windows displayed mannequins dressed in the latest fall fashions, their perfectly coiffed hair and flawless makeup a stark contrast to the slightly chaotic energy of the mall itself. Entering the store, Anya was met with a muted silence, broken only by the soft tinkling of a nearby wind chime. The air conditioning was set to a chilly temperature, a stark difference from the warmth of the mall's central atrium. Two sales associates, both young women with bored expressions, were huddled near the back, seemingly engrossed in their phones. Anya approached the nearest one, a petite blonde with heavily applied makeup. "Excuse me," Anya began, her voice calm and measured. "I'm looking for a silk blouse, something in a jewel tone, perhaps emerald or sapphire." The sales associate barely glanced up, her eyes lingering on her phone before she mumbled a response. "Over there." She gestured vaguely towards a rack overflowing with clothes. The gesture lacked any warmth or genuine assistance. Anya noted the dismissive tone, a subtle prickle of unease beginning to form. It wasn't the typical disinterest she sometimes encountered in high-end stores. This felt different, charged with an undercurrent of something else entirely. Anya browsed the rack, carefully examining the fabrics and styles. She found a few potential options, holding them up to her to assess the fit and color. She was about to ask the associate for assistance in finding her size when she heard a sharp voice cutting through the store's quiet hum. "Excuse me, miss." Anya turned to see Mr. Henderson, the owner of Elegance Emporium, striding towards her with an aggressive gait. He was a middle-aged white man with thinning hair and a perpetually disgruntled expression. Anya had met him briefly at a mall meeting a few months prior, noting his stiff demeanor and aloof attitude. "Yes," Anya responded, her voice maintaining its calm composure, despite the sudden shift in the atmosphere. "I believe you have something that belongs to us," Mr. Henderson said, his voice dripping with accusation. His eyes narrowed, focusing intently on the bag Anya carried, a simple black leather tote. "That emerald silk blouse. You haven't paid for it." Anya felt a surge of annoyance, quickly followed by a wave of disbelief. She hadn't even touched the emerald blouse. She was still holding the sapphire one. She opened her bag, revealing its contents, a wallet, a phone, and a small notebook. "Nothing else." "I assure you, sir," Anya said, her voice steady but firm, "I have not taken anything from your store. I haven't even touched that blouse." Mr. Henderson's face hardened. "Don't lie to me. I saw you. You were trying to sneak it into your bag." He gestured dramatically towards the security cameras in the corner of the store, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of anger and what Anya could only describe as malicious glee. "Sir, I suggest you check your security footage before making such accusations," Anya replied, her patience wearing thin. She was fully aware of the cameras and confident that they would corroborate her claim. However, Mr. Henderson's behavior was clearly beyond a simple misunderstanding. There was a distinct undercurrent of prejudice in his tone and demeanor, a subtle but unmistakable bias that made her blood run cold. This wasn't about a stolen blouse. This was about something far more insidious. "No need," Mr. Henderson sneered, his gaze lingering on Anya's face. "I'm calling the police." He reached for his phone, his hand trembling slightly with a mixture of anger and what Anya perceived as a sense of triumph. The silence that followed was thick with tension, punctuated only by the rhythmic ticking of a nearby clock. Anya felt a cold dread wash over her, a chilling realization that this was not going to be a simple matter of clarifying a misunderstanding. This was something far more serious, a confrontation that would expose the ugly underbelly of prejudice that still lurked beneath the surface of her seemingly perfect world. The shrill ring of Mr. Henderson's phone sliced through the tense silence, the sound echoing in the small boutique like a death knell. He spoke rapidly into the device, his voice laced with a theatrical urgency that felt both performative and chillingly calculated. Anya watched him, her expression carefully neutral, her internal alarm bells screaming. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was a deliberate attempt to humiliate and discredit her. The casual racism she'd sensed earlier had solidified into a concrete, menacing threat. The two sales associates, previously engrossed in their phones, now watched the unfolding drama with a mixture of morbid fascination and detached apathy. Their silence was a tacit endorsement of Mr. Henderson's actions, a chilling testament to the normalized prejudice that likely permeated their workplace. Anya felt a surge of anger, a righteous fury that threatened to boil over. But she held it in check, her years of experience in high-stakes negotiations reminding her of the importance of maintaining control, of appearing calm and collected in the face of adversity. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The air in the boutique grew thick with unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. Anya felt the weight of Mr. Henderson's gaze, a palpable pressure that sought to intimidate and undermine her. But she refused to yield. She stood tall, her posture unwavering, her eyes meeting his with a steely resolve that mirrored the strength of her inner conviction. The arrival of the two police officers broke the suffocating tension. They were young, their faces still and professional, their uniforms crisp and immaculate. They moved with a practiced efficiency, their eyes scanning the scene, taking in the details with an almost clinical detachment. Mr. Henderson, sensing their presence, immediately launched into his account, his voice rising in pitch with each word. He spoke rapidly, weaving a narrative that painted Anya as a cunning thief, a brazen criminal caught red-handed. He pointed towards the security cameras, his voice dripping with self-righteous indignation. "Officer, I saw her. She tried to steal this emerald silk blouse. She put it in her bag, right in front of me." He gestured wildly, his words tumbling over each other in a torrent of accusations. His performance was almost theatrical, a carefully crafted drama designed to sway the officers to his side. The officers listened patiently, their expressions betraying nothing of their inner thoughts. They nodded occasionally, their silence neither confirming nor denying Mr. Henderson's claims. Anya watched them, her mind racing, formulating her response. She knew she needed to be precise, to present her case with clarity and conviction. She couldn't afford to let emotion cloud her judgment. She needed to navigate this situation with the same strategic precision she employed in the boardroom. When Mr. Henderson finished his tirade, one of the officers turned to Anya. "Ma'am," he said, his voice even and neutral, "can you tell us your side of the story?" His tone was polite, but the underlying implication was clear. The burden of proof rested on her shoulders. The weight of the situation pressed down on her, the unfairness of it all a bitter pill to swallow. But Anya refused to let it break her. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the battle ahead. She met the officer's gaze, her eyes unwavering. She knew she needed to be calm, to speak clearly and concisely. She would not allow Mr. Henderson's performance to dictate the narrative. She would reclaim her voice, her dignity, and her truth. The fight, she knew, had only just begun. The subtle racism that had permeated the initial interaction had now escalated into a full-blown confrontation, a test of her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering commitment to justice. And Anya Reed was ready. She would not be silenced. She would not be intimidated. She would prevail. Anya took a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs as she prepared to counter Mr. Henderson's carefully constructed narrative. She met the officer's gaze, her expression calm and composed, a stark contrast to the agitated energy radiating from the store owner. She began to speak, her voice clear and measured, each word carefully chosen. "Officer," she started, "I understand that Mr. Henderson has accused me of shoplifting. I want to assure you that this accusation is completely false. I did not steal anything from this store. I was simply browsing, looking for a silk blouse. She paused, allowing her words to sink in, her eyes fixed on the officer's face, searching for any sign of doubt or skepticism. She continued, her voice gaining strength with each sentence. I was examining a sapphire silk blouse when Mr. Henderson approached me, making this unfounded accusation. I willingly showed him the contents of my bag, demonstrating that I had not taken anything from his store. He refused to accept my explanation, instead choosing to escalate the situation by calling the police. Anya subtly shifted her weight, her gaze briefly sweeping over the two sales associates who were now openly watching the unfolding drama. Their faces revealed nothing, their expressions a mixture of indifference and perhaps a touch of apprehension. Their silence was a damning indictment, a silent confirmation of the hostile environment Anya had encountered from the moment she stepped into the store. I would like to request that you review the security footage, Anya continued, her voice gaining confidence. I am confident that it will corroborate my account and demonstrate the falsity of Mr. Henderson's accusation. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle. The officers exchanged a brief glance, their eyes lingering on the security cameras in the corner of the store. Mr. Henderson, sensing the shift in momentum, interrupted, his voice laced with a mixture of anger and desperation. Officer, don't listen to her. She's lying. I saw her with my own eyes. His voice rose in pitch, his words becoming increasingly frantic. He paced back and forth, his agitation growing more pronounced with each passing second. His performance, however, was losing its effectiveness. The officers, initially swayed by his confident demeanor, now seemed more receptive to Anya's calm and reasoned account. One of the officers approached the security camera system, his movements deliberate and methodical. He began to review the footage, his eyes scanning the monitor with a focused intensity. A tense silence descended upon the boutique, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning and the soft click of the mouse as the officer navigated through the recorded images. Anya remained calm, her posture unwavering. She knew the truth was on her side. She had nothing to hide. She had been unjustly accused, subjected to a humiliating public spectacle, and now she was fighting back. The fight, she realized, was not just about clearing her name. It was about challenging the systemic prejudice that had allowed this situation to unfold in the first place. It was about exposing the insidious nature of racism and the damaging consequences of unchecked bias. And she was determined to win. The fate of this confrontation, she knew, rested not only on the evidence captured by the security cameras, but also on the officer's ability to see beyond the surface, to recognize the truth even when it was obscured by prejudice and misrepresentation. The weight of this realization settled upon her, adding to the already immense pressure of the situation. But Anya remained resolute, her determination unwavering. She would not be defeated. The silence in the boutique was thick, heavy with anticipation. Mr. Henderson fidgeted, his agitation palpable. His carefully constructed narrative was crumbling, the foundation of his accusations slowly dissolving under the weight of the unfolding truth. The two sales associates remained silent, their earlier indifference replaced by a nervous apprehension. Even the air seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the verdict. The officer reviewing the security footage remained silent, his face impassive, giving away nothing of his thoughts. His focused attention, however, spoke volumes. He was meticulously examining the recordings, searching for any evidence that could corroborate Mr. Henderson's claims. Anya watched him, her heart pounding in her chest, a mixture of anxiety and anticipation churning within her. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Each second felt like an eternity, stretching out into an endless expanse of uncertainty. Anya felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her, the pressure intensifying with each passing moment. She had prepared herself for this confrontation, mentally rehearsing her responses, anticipating the challenges she might face. But nothing could have fully prepared her for the raw, visceral experience of being wrongly accused, of having her integrity questioned, of being subjected to a public humiliation fueled by prejudice. Finally, after what felt like an age, the officer turned away from the monitor, his expression unreadable. He looked at Anya, then at Mr. Henderson, his gaze lingering on each of them for a moment before he spoke. His voice was calm, even devoid of any emotion that might betray his judgment. "Officer Miller," he addressed his partner, "I believe we've seen enough." He then turned to Anya and Mr. Henderson. "Based on the security footage," he continued, his words measured and precise, "there is no evidence to support Mr. Henderson's claim that you stole anything from his store, Ms. Reed. The footage clearly shows you browsing the merchandise, but at no point do you attempt to conceal or steal anything." A wave of relief washed over Anya, a palpable sense of vindication that momentarily eased the tension that had been gripping her. She felt a surge of gratitude, a profound appreciation for the officer's fairness and impartiality. She had been prepared for a protracted battle, a lengthy interrogation, perhaps even an arrest. But the swift and decisive resolution was a testament to the officer's professionalism and his commitment to justice. Mr. Henderson, however, was far from accepting defeat. His face contorted with anger and disbelief. He sputtered, his words incoherent, his carefully constructed narrative now in ruins. He tried to argue, to protest, to somehow salvage the situation. But his words fell flat, devoid of credibility. The officers, having witnessed the security footage and heard Anya's account, were no longer swayed by his desperate attempts to maintain his false accusation. The officer's calm demeanor, however, did not mask the gravity of the situation. He was not simply dismissing Mr. Henderson's claims. He was acknowledging the underlying prejudice that had fueled the accusation. The incident, although resolved, had exposed a deeper issue, a systemic problem that required addressing. The weight of this realization settled upon Anya, adding another layer of complexity to the already emotionally charged situation. The immediate relief she felt was quickly replaced by a growing sense of purpose, a determination to address the larger issue of racial bias and discrimination. The battle, she realized, was far from over. The air in the boutique crackled with unspoken tension. Mr. Henderson's sputtering protests gradually subsided, replaced by a stunned silence. His face, once flushed with anger, now paled, his eyes wide with disbelief. The carefully constructed facade of his authority had crumbled, revealing the raw, ugly truth beneath. A man fueled by prejudice, his accusations born not of fact, but of ingrained bias. The two young sales associates exchanged nervous glances, their earlier apathy replaced by a palpable unease. They had witnessed the entire incident, silently observing as Mr. Henderson's false accusation unfolded. Their silence, Anya now realized, was not simply indifference. It was complicity, a tacit acceptance of the prejudiced behavior that had become normalized within the store's environment. Their silence, however, would not go unaddressed. One of the officers, a woman with a calm, observant demeanor, stepped forward. "Sir," she addressed Mr. Henderson, her voice firm but measured, "we have reviewed the security footage, and it clearly shows that Ms. Reed did not steal anything from your store. Your accusation is unfounded and, frankly, quite disturbing." Mr. Henderson opened his mouth to protest, but the officer raised a hand, silencing him. "I understand you may be upset, but making false accusations, especially those fueled by racial bias, has serious consequences. We will be filing a report on this incident, and you will be contacted by our superiors regarding the next steps." The weight of the officer's words hung heavy in the air. Mr. Henderson's face drained further of color. The bravado he had displayed earlier was gone, replaced by a mixture of fear and regret. He knew he had been caught, not just in a lie, but in an act of blatant discrimination. The consequences, he now realized, would be far-reaching. Anya, however, felt a surge of something beyond relief. The vindication was satisfying, but the incident had exposed a deeper malaise, a systemic issue that went beyond a single prejudiced store owner. The silent complicity of the sales associates, the casual racism that had permeated the atmosphere of the store, these were symptoms of a larger problem, a societal ill that needed addressing. She looked at Mr. Henderson, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Mr. Henderson," she said, her voice calm but firm, Your behavior was not only unprofessional, but also deeply offensive. You have not only wrongly accused me, but also demonstrated a blatant disregard for the principles of fairness and equality." She paused, allowing her words to sink in. The officers watched intently, their expressions betraying nothing of their inner thoughts. The two sales associates remained silent, their faces a mixture of apprehension and guilt. The silence in the boutique was deafening, broken only by the rhythmic ticking of a clock on the wall, each tick a hammer blow against the crumbling edifice of Mr. Henderson's authority. Anya continued, her voice gaining strength. "I am the owner of this mall. You leased this space from me. Your actions today have violated the terms of your lease agreement. I am therefore terminating your lease, effective immediately." The words hung in the air, a declaration of power, a decisive act of justice. Mr. Henderson's eyes widened in disbelief. He had expected an apology, perhaps a reprimand. But termination? This was beyond anything he had anticipated. The reality of his actions, the gravity of his mistake, finally hit him with full force. His carefully constructed world, his business, his livelihood, all were crumbling before his eyes. The consequences of his prejudice, once distant and abstract, had become brutally, undeniably real. A stunned silence descended upon the boutique. Mr. Henderson stared at Anya, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror. The two sales associates exchanged wide-eyed glances, their earlier apathy replaced by a palpable sense of shock. Even the officers seemed momentarily taken aback by the swiftness and decisiveness of Anya's action. The power dynamic had shifted dramatically. The tables turned with breathtaking speed. Anya, however, felt a surge of satisfaction. The years of hard work, the countless hours spent building her business empire, had culminated in this moment. She had not only cleared her name, but also wielded her authority to deliver a swift and decisive blow against prejudice and discrimination. This was not merely a personal victory. It was a statement, a powerful message sent not only to Mr. Henderson, but to the entire mall, and indeed to the wider community. Mr. Henderson finally found his voice, a weak, shaky protest barely audible above the lingering silence. But this is my livelihood. You can't just—" His words trailed off, his voice choked with a mixture of anger and despair. He had expected a confrontation, a dispute, perhaps even a lawsuit. But the immediate termination of his lease, delivered with such calm authority, had caught him completely off guard. Anya remained impassive, her expression unwavering. She had anticipated his reaction, prepared for his attempts to plead his case, to negotiate, to somehow mitigate the consequences of his actions. But she would not yield. She had made her decision, and she would not be swayed. Her authority was absolute, her resolve unshakable. One of the officers, sensing the need to intervene, stepped forward. "Sir," he said, his voice even and professional, "Ms. Reed is the owner of this mall. She has the legal right to terminate your lease. I suggest you cooperate with her instructions and vacate the premises peacefully." Mr. Henderson's shoulders slumped. The fight had gone out of him. He knew he was defeated, not only in his attempt to falsely accuse Anya, but also in his battle to retain his business. The weight of his actions, the consequences of his prejudice, had finally crushed him. The two sales associates, witnessing the unfolding drama, began to pack up their belongings, their movements hesitant and subdued. The earlier indifference had completely vanished, replaced by a palpable sense of unease and perhaps a touch of regret. They had been complicit in Mr. Henderson's behavior, their silence a tacit endorsement of his actions. Now, they were facing the consequences of their inaction. Anya watched them, her gaze firm but not unkind. She knew they were victims of the same system that had allowed Mr. Henderson's prejudice to flourish. Their complicity, however, did not excuse their behavior. She would address the issue of systemic prejudice within the mall, ensuring that such incidents would not be repeated. This was not just about punishing Mr. Henderson. It was about creating a more equitable and inclusive environment for all. The incident, although resolved, had exposed a deeper malaise, a systemic issue that required addressing. And Anya, as the owner of the mall, was determined to take action. The immediate satisfaction of her victory was quickly replaced by a growing sense of responsibility, a determination to address the larger issue of racial bias and discrimination. The battle, she realized, was far from over. But she was ready. She was prepared, and she would win. The officers, having ensured a peaceful and orderly removal of Mr. Henderson and his staff, turned their attention to Anya. They thanked her for her cooperation and reiterated that a formal report would be filed regarding Mr. Henderson's false accusation and discriminatory behavior. They also commended her calm and collected demeanor throughout the ordeal, acknowledging the unfairness of the situation she had faced. Anya, feeling a mixture of relief and resolve, thanked the officers for their professionalism and impartiality. She knew that their actions, in upholding the law and protecting her rights, had been instrumental in ensuring a just outcome. She also recognized that their response was not simply a matter of procedure. It represented a commitment to fairness and equality, a willingness to challenge prejudice and ensure justice prevailed. As the officers left, Anya surveyed the empty boutique, a strange mix of emotions swirling within her. The immediate satisfaction of her victory was tempered by a growing awareness of the systemic issues that had allowed such an incident to occur. The casual racism, the silent complicity of the sales associates, the normalization of prejudice behavior. These were not isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a deeper problem that required addressing. She knew that simply terminating Mr. Henderson's lease was not enough. She needed to take a more proactive approach to address the underlying causes of prejudice and discrimination within the mall. This would require a multifaceted strategy involving staff training, diversity initiatives, and a rigorous review of the mall's policies and procedures. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through her contacts. She needed to speak with her legal team to discuss the implications of Mr. Henderson's actions and to explore potential legal avenues to address the broader issue of discrimination. She also needed to contact her Human Resources Department to initiate a comprehensive review of the mall's policies and procedures, ensuring that they were aligned with her commitment to creating a diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment for all. She also needed to address the issue of the sales associates' complicity. While she understood that they were likely victims of the same system that had allowed Mr. Henderson's prejudice to flourish, their silence had been unacceptable. She would not tolerate such behavior in her mall. She would provide them with sensitivity training, ensuring that they understood the importance of challenging prejudice and promoting equality. Anya knew that this would be a long and challenging process, requiring significant investment of time, resources, and effort. But she was determined to succeed. She had built her empire on principles of fairness, equality, and opportunity. She would not allow prejudice and discrimination to undermine the values she held dear. The incident with Mr. Henderson, while deeply upsetting, had also served as a catalyst, a wake-up call that had galvanized her commitment to creating a truly inclusive and equitable environment within her mall. The fight, she knew, was far from over. But she was ready. She was prepared. And she would win. This was not just about justice for herself. It was about justice for all. The news of the incident at Elegance Emporium spread like wildfire through the Galleria Mall. Whispers turned into conversations, conversations into open discussions. Other tenants, many of whom had experienced subtle forms of discrimination or witnessed prejudice behavior, began to share their own stories. Anya, initially overwhelmed by the sheer volume of accounts, realized that Mr. Henderson's actions were not an isolated incident. They were symptomatic of a larger problem, a systemic issue that had been festering beneath the surface of her seemingly perfect mall. The initial shock and disbelief gave way to a collective sense of outrage and a shared desire for change. Anya, having already initiated internal investigations and begun the process of implementing new policies and procedures, decided to hold a mandatory meeting with all mall tenants. She wanted to create a safe space for open dialogue, a platform for sharing experiences, and fostering a collective commitment to creating a more inclusive and equitable environment. The meeting, held in the mall's spacious central atrium, was attended by a diverse group of business owners, ranging from small boutiques to large department stores. The atmosphere was initially tense, a palpable sense of unease hanging in the air. Many were hesitant to speak, fearing retribution or further discrimination. Anya, however, addressed them with empathy and understanding, assuring them that their voices would be heard and their concerns addressed. She began by recounting the events at Elegance Emporium, emphasizing the importance of challenging prejudice and promoting equality. She then opened the floor for discussion, encouraging tenants to share their experiences, both positive and negative. The initial hesitancy gradually dissipated, replaced by a wave of shared experiences and collective outrage. One by one, tenants recounted instances of subtle discrimination, microaggressions, and overt acts of prejudice. Some described being overlooked by security personnel. Others recounted instances of unfair treatment by mall management. Many shared stories of feeling unwelcome, marginalized, and undervalued. The stories, both heartbreaking and infuriating, painted a stark picture of the systemic issues that had been plaguing the mall for years. Anya listened intently, taking notes and offering words of support and encouragement. She acknowledged the pain and frustration expressed by the tenants, emphasizing her commitment to creating a more equitable and inclusive environment. She reiterated her plan to implement comprehensive diversity and inclusion training for all mall staff, to review and revise the mall's policies and procedures, and to establish a formal process for reporting and addressing incidents of discrimination. The meeting, while emotionally challenging, proved to be a turning point. It fostered a sense of unity and collective purpose, transforming a shared sense of outrage into a collective commitment to change. The tenants, empowered by Anya's leadership and inspired by their shared experiences, left the meeting feeling hopeful and energized, ready to work together to create a more just and equitable environment within the Galleria Mall. Anya, feeling both exhausted and invigorated, knew that the work ahead would be challenging, but she was determined to succeed. The fight for equality, she realized, was a continuous process, requiring unwavering commitment and persistent effort. But she was ready, she was prepared, and she would not give up. The aftermath of the tenant meeting was a whirlwind of activity. Anya, fueled by a renewed sense of purpose, immediately mobilized her team. She tasked her legal department with drafting a comprehensive anti-discrimination policy, one that would not only address the immediate concerns raised by the tenants, but also establish a robust framework for preventing future incidents. She instructed her HR department to develop a mandatory diversity and inclusion training program, one that would equip all mall staff with the knowledge and skills necessary to identify, challenge, and prevent discriminatory behavior. She also directed her security team to undergo enhanced training, focusing on de-escalation techniques, cultural sensitivity, and implicit bias awareness. Simultaneously, she began reaching out to community organizations and diversity consultants, seeking expert guidance and support in designing and implementing these initiatives. She wanted to ensure that the programs were not only effective, but also culturally sensitive and inclusive, reflecting the diverse demographics of the mall's clientele and workforce. She also initiated a review of the mall's marketing and advertising materials, ensuring that they accurately reflected the diversity of the community and promoted a message of inclusivity and equality. The process was demanding, requiring countless hours of meetings, discussions, and revisions. Anya, however, remained steadfast in her commitment, driven by a deep sense of responsibility and a desire to create a truly equitable and inclusive environment. She understood that this was not simply a matter of compliance. It was a fundamental aspect of her leadership and a reflection of her values. She also initiated a series of town hall meetings, inviting community leaders, activists, and representatives from various cultural and ethnic groups to share their perspectives and offer recommendations. She wanted to ensure that the initiatives were not only effective but also responsive to the needs and concerns of the broader community. She listened attentively, absorbing their insights and incorporating their suggestions into the evolving plans. The response from the community was overwhelmingly positive. Many expressed their appreciation for Anya's proactive approach, commending her commitment to creating a more inclusive and welcoming space. Others offered valuable insights and practical advice, sharing their experiences and expertise to help shape the initiatives. Anya, recognizing the importance of collaboration and community engagement, actively sought their input, incorporating their suggestions into the evolving plans. The process was not without its challenges. Some stakeholders expressed skepticism, questioning the feasibility and effectiveness of the proposed initiatives. Others raised concerns about the cost and time involved. Anya, however, remained undeterred, addressing their concerns with patience and persistence. She presented data demonstrating the economic benefits of diversity and inclusion, highlighting the positive impact on customer satisfaction, employee morale, and overall profitability. She also emphasized the ethical imperative of creating a just and equitable environment, underscoring the importance of social responsibility and corporate citizenship. Through her unwavering commitment and persuasive arguments, she gradually won over even the most skeptical stakeholders, securing their support and collaboration. The transformation of the Galleria Mall, she knew, would not be easy, but it would be worth it. The fight for equality, she realized, was a continuous process, requiring unwavering commitment and persistent effort. But she was ready, she was prepared, and she would not give up. The implementation of Anya's new initiatives was a significant undertaking, requiring a substantial investment of time, resources, and effort. The Diversity and Inclusion Training Program, developed in collaboration with leading experts in the field, was rigorous and comprehensive. It covered a wide range of topics, including unconscious bias, microaggressions, cultural sensitivity, and effective communication strategies. The training was mandatory for all mall staff, from security personnel to management, ensuring that everyone was equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to create a more inclusive and welcoming environment. The new anti-discrimination policy, drafted by Anya's legal team, was equally comprehensive. It clearly defined prohibited conduct, established a robust reporting mechanism, and outlined a clear process for investigating and addressing complaints. The policy was widely disseminated throughout the mall, ensuring that all tenants and staff were aware of their rights and responsibilities. Anya also established a dedicated diversity and inclusion committee, comprised of representatives from various departments and tenant groups, to oversee the implementation of the new initiatives and monitor their effectiveness. The security team's enhanced training focused on de-escalation techniques, cultural sensitivity, and implicit bias awareness. They were instructed to actively intervene in situations where they witnessed discriminatory behavior, ensuring that all individuals felt safe and respected within the mall. Anya also implemented a new security protocol, requiring all security personnel to undergo regular sensitivity training and undergo implicit bias testing. The changes were not limited to policies and procedures. Anya also initiated a series of community outreach programs, partnering with local organizations to host events that celebrated diversity and promoted cultural understanding. These events, which ranged from art exhibitions to cultural festivals, attracted a diverse range of attendees, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Anya also commissioned public art installations, showcasing the work of local artists from diverse backgrounds. These installations served as a powerful visual reminder of the mall's commitment to diversity and inclusion. The transformation of the Galleria Mall was not instantaneous. It was an ongoing process, requiring persistent effort and unwavering commitment. There were setbacks and challenges along the way. Some staff members resisted the changes, while others expressed skepticism about their effectiveness. Anya, however, remained steadfast in her resolve, addressing their concerns with patience and persistence. She emphasized the importance of creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for all, highlighting the positive impact on customer satisfaction, employee morale, and overall profitability. Through her unwavering commitment and collaborative approach, Anya gradually won over even the most skeptical stakeholders. The changes, initially met with resistance, gradually became accepted, then embraced. The mall's atmosphere transformed, becoming more welcoming, more inclusive, and more vibrant. The initiatives, initially conceived as a response to a single incident of prejudice, had evolved into a comprehensive and transformative effort, reshaping the culture of the Galleria Mall and setting a new standard for diversity and inclusion within the retail industry. The journey had been challenging, But the results were undeniable. The Galleria Mall was no longer just a shopping destination. It was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of collective action, and a beacon of inclusivity and equality. 6 months after the incident at Elegance Emporium, the Galleria Mall was a transformed space. The atmosphere was noticeably different, lighter, more welcoming. The changes implemented by Anya were not merely cosmetic. They had permeated the very fabric of the mall's culture. The diversity and inclusion training had demonstrably impacted staff behavior, fostering a more respectful and inclusive environment. Incidents of discrimination, once commonplace, had become rare, a testament to the effectiveness of the new policies and procedures. The new anti-discrimination policy, clearly articulated and widely disseminated, had empowered both tenants and staff to report incidents without fear of retribution. The dedicated Diversity and Inclusion Committee, composed of representatives from various departments and tenant groups, actively monitored the situation, ensuring that the new initiatives were effectively implemented and their impact regularly assessed. The security team, having undergone enhanced training, responded swiftly and effectively to any instances of harassment or discrimination, ensuring that all individuals felt safe and respected within the mall. The community outreach programs, designed to celebrate diversity and promote cultural understanding, had proven to be remarkably successful. The events, which ranged from art exhibitions to cultural festivals, attracted a diverse range of attendees, fostering a sense of community and belonging. The public art installations, showcasing the work of local artists from diverse backgrounds, serve as a powerful visual reminder of the mall's commitment to diversity and inclusion. The positive changes were not merely anecdotal. They were reflected in measurable improvements across various key performance indicators. Customer satisfaction scores had risen significantly, reflecting the improved shopping experience. Employee morale had also improved, with staff reporting higher levels of job satisfaction and a greater sense of belonging. The mall's overall profitability had also increased, demonstrating the clear economic benefits of diversity and inclusion. Anya, observing these positive changes, felt a profound sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. The journey had been challenging, requiring significant investment of time, resources, and effort. There had been setbacks and challenges along the way, moments of doubt and frustration. But Anya, driven by her unwavering commitment to creating a just and equitable environment, had persevered. She had not only addressed the immediate issue of Mr. Henderson's discriminatory behavior, but had also tackled the systemic problems that had allowed such incidents to occur. She had transformed the Galleria Mall, not just into a shopping destination, but into a model of diversity, inclusion, and social responsibility. Her leadership had inspired others, setting a new standard for corporate social responsibility within the retail industry. The Galleria Mall had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of collective action, and a beacon of inclusivity and equality. Anya, however, knew that the work was far from over. The fight for equality was an ongoing process, requiring continuous vigilance and persistent effort. But she was ready. She was prepared. And she would continue to fight for a more just and equitable world. A year later, Anya stood on the balcony of her office overlooking the bustling Galleria Mall. The autumn sun cast a warm glow on the vibrant scene below, a stark contrast to the chilly atmosphere that had permeated the mall 6 months prior. The transformation had been remarkable, a testament to her unwavering commitment and the collective efforts of her team and the wider community. The mall was thriving, bustling with activity. Shoppers from diverse backgrounds filled the walkways, their laughter and conversations creating a vibrant and welcoming atmosphere. The tenants, many of whom had shared their stories of discrimination at the initial meeting, were now thriving, their businesses flourishing in the newly created equitable environment. The sense of community was palpable, a testament to the power of collective action and the transformative impact of diversity and inclusion. Anya reflected on the journey, the challenges overcome, the victories achieved. The incident with Mr. Henderson, initially a deeply upsetting experience, had become a catalyst for positive change. It had exposed the systemic issues that had been plaguing the mall, forcing her to confront the uncomfortable truths about prejudice and discrimination. It had also revealed the immense power of collective action, the ability of individuals to come together to create a more just and equitable world. The changes implemented at the Galleria Mall had not only improved the shopping experience for customers and the working conditions for employees, but had also generated significant positive media attention. Anya had become a vocal advocate for diversity and inclusion, sharing her experiences and insights with other business leaders and community organizations. She had been invited to speak at numerous conferences and events, sharing her story and inspiring others to embrace similar initiatives. The Galleria Mall had become a model for other businesses, demonstrating the economic and social benefits of diversity and inclusion. Anya's leadership had earned her numerous accolades and awards, recognizing her commitment to social responsibility and her transformative impact on the community. But for Anya, the greatest reward was not the recognition or the accolades, but the tangible positive changes she had witnessed within the mall and the wider community. She looked down at the bustling scene below, a wave of satisfaction washing over her. The Galleria Mall was no longer just a shopping center. It was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of collective action, and a beacon of inclusivity and equality. The journey had been challenging, but the results were undeniable. The fight for equality, she knew, was an ongoing process, requiring continuous vigilance and persistent effort. But Anya was ready. She was prepared, and she would continue to fight for a more just and equitable world, one shopping mall at a time. The transformation of the Galleria Mall was not just a victory for her. It was a victory for everyone who believed in the power of diversity, inclusion, and social justice. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of hope.